Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jody and this is Quilt Squirrel. I named the channel Quilt Squirrel because I get easily distracted on the new shiny project, and so I have a lot of UFOs and flimsies. A flimsy is just a quilt top. It's not finished with batting, backing, or binding. It's just the top. I call that a flimsy. Some people call them toppers, and I'm sure there's other names, but I refer to it as a flimsy. And this is my most recent flimsy. And I love to do portrait quilts. I'm shown in a video, I think I did Mothman, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. I've done what I call my Saturday matinee series, which is Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Mummy, Dracula, all of them. I did all those. I'll bring them out again sometime. And I love trying new techniques. And if I can't figure out by watching a bunch of videos how to do something, I will come up with my own way of doing it. And so this quilt behind me, I had to do that a few times. So every year for a New Year's resolution, I no longer say I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to do this or that, because it never happens. So a few years ago, I started changing my New Year's resolutions to be more hobby oriented. And so I'll show you a few of my New Year's resolutions. They're UFOs, so don't laugh. I know you're going to laugh, but go ahead, laugh. One year, I wanted to learn how to make stuffed animals because, my grandkids were young. And so I thought, what's an easy stuffed animal? Sock monkey. Okay. This is as far as I got on my sock monkey. I have the body, the legs. He doesn't have his face or his arms or his eyes. But yeah, I might finish him. My grandkids are teenagers now, basically. And so, yeah, I might finish him. I've got the stuff to make him. But for now, he sits in the closet as a UFO. Okay. So then another year, I wanted to learn how to knit. So I thought, okay, what's an easy thing to start with knitting? I thought, okay, a scarf. This is my scarf. This took me forever just to get to this point, and it's nowhere near being a scarf. And yeah, knitting just isn't for me right now. So you knitters out there, more power to you. You've got the patience of a saint. So this is another UFO. One year, I wanted to do or to recreate a famous painting. And so I picked Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. And this is as far as I got. It's a flimsy, but it's all little, I don't know if you can tell, but there's all these little tiny pieces all fused down. So that's my Starry Night. So I might eventually put some backing or something behind it and sew it. But that's why I have a lot of flimsies, is because I work so hard to get at this point that I don't want to mess it up by learning how to free motion on it. So that's why I have a lot of flimsies, to be honest. So I'm hoping to correct that. In 2024, my New Year's resolution was to learn more hand techniques. So the 2024 quilt shows, the one with Alex Anderson and Ricky Timms, The block of the month for 2024 was called Pick A Petal. The pattern is by Jen Kingwell. And this is my learning quilt. There is curved piecing, there's applique, and I don't know if you can tell, but there's embroidery throughout these log cabins, these white log cabins. So that fit the bill for learning how to do hand work. So I watched a lot of videos, and I just couldn't do it. Had to find an easier way. There's just so much on here in order to keep up. I had to come up with my own way to do it each month. So what I came up with was I bought from Joann's. It's called No Melt Mylar Template Plastic. And so I got this because I needed to iron on it. And so what I did was I traced my pattern. This template is the border on these blocks. And then this template is the petals for the alternating block. And this template is for the small circle in the arch. And what I would do was I would trace the pattern on my Mylar. And I didn't include any seam allowance on the template. And so right there is that. And what I would do would be I would take my strip of fabric and I would cut it just a little bit bigger than it needed to be. I would take my Stay Flow mixture, 50-50 with water, and I got a gripe. I heard Faultless bought out Stay Flow, and so they discontinued making Stay Flow. This is all I have left, and I'm not happy. I liked using this. It was cheap, and it worked. So what I would do would be I would have my piece of fabric a little bit bigger than it needed to be on this template. I would take and dip my paintbrush into my starch and water mixture, and I would paint the edges of the fabric. And with an iron, I would iron over the edges over my Mylar. And so my edges would be turned under. And so then I could be able to applique. So on this block here, I had my pieces with the edge turned over, and I appliqued it on to these 9 patches. I just made a 9 patch and appliqued these borders on. So that's how I did that. And then since I'm using a lot of starch and glue in my processes on this quilt, to protect my ironing surface that I work on, I iron down freezer paper to protect it. And this is what I work on. And so for the arch blocks here, these small blocks, I took the template that they gave us in one of the months, and I drew it onto my freezer paper. You see here. And so this large curve, I cut out and I pieced together these little pieces in my arch. And with my sewing machine, I sewed that together. But to get this underneath my sewing machine foot was almost impossible because it's so tiny. So what I did was I took I don't know what I did with it, but here it is. My small piece. I took this, I cut a square, trimmed it close, about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch away, did the starch mixture, ironed it over, and then I would take these 2 pieces that I had sewed together, I would take my piece that I had starched under, and I used this as my placement guide, and then I would put drops of glue on the bottom of my piece that was turned under, and I would lay it all down, and I use this as my placement guide to glue this on, and then I hand applique these small pieces down. So these are small. Didn't take long to applique these small ones on. The outer curve is sewn with machine. That's hand sewn on the inner pie piece. So that's how I did that. Had to come up that way. And then for the applique pieces, there was a lot of applique. I used, I think it was called Wonder Under SF 805, I think was the number. But I drew my piece onto the Wonder Under, no seam allowance on it. I ironed it onto here, and then with a glue stick and my lobster forks, they've got like little points on the end, and it's got a flat petal on the other. I would take the glue stick and I would put glue on the paper, and I would use my forks to flip over the edges so that would be turned under, no raw edge. And then I could remove my paper and applique my petals down. Oops, petals. All my applique. That's how I did all my applique pieces. So that was another technique I had to come up with. But when you look at it, you can't tell how I came up with it. But that's my method that I came up with to get me to this result. So, you got to do what you got to do. And then I think that was all the techniques on this one. I did want to, and I may still do it, since this was my learning quilt, I knew it wasn't going to be pretty. I pulled baby fabric, reproduction fabric, batiks, everything from my scraps. If it was the size I needed, I put it in. And I thought, I'm going to learn how to hand quilt a quilt. Well, after doing all this applique on these log cabins, there's a lot of seams in a log cabin, and trying to hand embroider and hand applique on all them seams has me rethinking that. I may still do it, I don't know. But for now, this is probably going to sit in the closet as a flimsy or a topper or a quilt top until I figure out what I want to do. But I would like to hand quilt it. So we'll see. Another technique that I learned this year was the competition binding, which I made myself a little cheat sheet out of fabric. I have all my instructions written on it, how I did it, and I think I have 2 videos how I did it. It works. I've done it on 3 quilts. 1 quilt I won an award on, so the technique works. And so, yeah, I hang this up on my board over there so I don't have to go back and watch a video, that I actually have a physical sample that I can look at, and so I know how to do it again. So I like that technique. And let's see. So that's the 2024 New Year's resolution. My mind's slipping. The 2025 New Year's resolution. I'm thinking I've started reading again, so I definitely want to do more reading in 2025. And when I take this down after this video, I'm going to have, for the first time in a year, a blank design wall. This is 8x8. It's 2 pieces of this pink insulation. And then I ordered a king-size flannel sheet to go over it. I think it was a flannel sheet. I think I ordered it from Bonnie Hunter's site. She's got a place links to things, but this is a flannel sheet that everything sticks to. And what I'm thinking of putting up there is, for 2025, if you've ever seen him, He's got a channel. His name is called Dave's Craft Room. And he has mastered the art of taking random blocks and he can put them up and then he'll put filler pieces in to make a quilt. And so a few videos ago, I went through my UFOs and I looked at them and realistically thought, I am never going to finish these quilts, you know. So I've got all of these random quilt blocks. A lot of these can be used as filler blocks. And, you know, like I wanted to do half square triangle quilt. Like this is blue. I have a red one, a brown, a green. And so I was planning on doing that, but that's as far as I've got. I'm never going to make a quilt out of these, but I could put them in a Dave Craft Room style quilt. So that's the plan for all of these random blocks. So, and I do have a bunch. So that's the plan for 2025 on the Dave's Craft Room style quilt. And then I also have, it's about 4 years old that I've had it. I bought it used. It is a sit-down, I don't know if they're called long arm, it's a sit-down quilting machine where it's not a long arm where you tack down your quilt and you move the machine to quilt it. This is a table with a stationary machine and you move your quilt over this table to quilt it. The only time I used it was to test my tension. And for the past 4 years, it has been a table that has been a catch-all. I set stuff on it. So I want to clear this off and I want to practice more of the quilting part of a quilt. So maybe I won't have so many flimsies. And I have a few rulers that go with quilting machines that I want to try out. So that type of thing. So that's my 2025 New Year's resolution is I want to try the Dave's Craft Room style quilt. And I want to read. And I want to try and learn how to machine quilt some of my flimsies. So that's what I got. Oh, and I'm thinking in an upcoming quilt video, I want to maybe pull down all my flimsies because I need to refold them anyway, and maybe show you some of my flimsies. So we'll see. They won't be as funny as my sock monkey, but yeah, stuffed animal making, not for me. So I think that's it for this video. So I hope you have a Merry Christmas. And if I don't see you before the end of the year, have a Happy New Year. And I hope you stay safe. And I hope 2025 is a great year for all of us. So see you next time. Stay safe. Bye for now.